the image that I've chosen from the backlight setup where we had the backlight directly over the modifier shows the dynamism that comes from this setup. We have the hard edge along her arm here. We have the collarbone and that area kind of lit up, and we even have some definition down here in the stomach. I would crop this in probably. And before I send it, when I send it to the retoucher, I'm not going to take away too much of the scene because I'd rather have my retouch. And if you're not using a retoucher, then for yourself, it's the same thing. You don't want to have to do all the work to fix the background. You know, photography can be a little bit of a messy situation. But I think this shows really beautifully the dynamism. For the backlight setup, what I will do is add a little bit of contrast because I just want to accentuate that hard light versus really, really soft light from the front. I'm not going to do too much on my exposure. Maybe I'll bring it up 3/10, 4/10, something like that to really make it pop. But look how defined all of her features already are. Look at what we have in the eyes because those two V-flats are bouncing back really beautifully. This is a highlight, not a hotspot. This you could call a hotspot, but it's flattering. It gives shape. It's giving that light coming through and textured on her forehead from her textured hair. This could be a hotspot as well. I might bring the highlights back just a touch to rescue. But there's not much to do here. Again, I'm in a really subtle place because I've already got good light. Maybe I'll adjust the white balance a little bit to warm it up and really brings out those warm tones in the background as well. This is a lovely example of soft yet directional light. If you went to this kind of contrast because you wanted to really pop, look how much it destroys the skin tones. So I'll just go back to like 10 on that adjustment. I want to be subtle. I'm never going to do very much with well-lit images because you just don't need to. If I bring the shadows up, I don't think that adds anything. But I have the definition if I needed to. Like this is the darkest area of the image, but I have the shadows there. So I'm going to double click here to reset that slider. And that's pretty much all I'm going to do to an image like this. This shows why the backlight setup with V-flats bouncing back is so absolutely beautiful, directional, and effective. The image I chose from the backlight setup where we're not using the modifier, we're bouncing into the corner in the background is slightly askew. So I'm going to hit R for rotate, and I'm going to just straighten it out. There we go. I do feel like it would benefit from a little bit more exposure. We're in that bridal place, so I think we could lift up a little bit and make it a little bit dreamy. Instead of using the exposure slider, I'm going to use the brightness slider. It's a little more careful. Brightness is a little bit more careful with the highlights, and I'm going to be subtle with it. So maybe 15. I'm going to rescue some of those highlights. Look at how much definition we get back in the dress there as we do that. It can be quite rough with this. And I'm just going to crop in to give us a feeling of that dress. I don't think I need all this space around it. And I want to just get that backdrop at the top there. Beautiful. Now, here, if I start shifting the colors too much, I'm going to start changing the feeling of what the fabric is. So if you're doing a bridal shoot for a wedding gown company, for example, you don't want to add a bunch of warmth or cool it down too much because that changes the tone of the dress. So you want to really find, based on what you're shooting while you're shooting it, what looks closest to what the garment actually is. So here we're in a really beautiful place. I want to warm it up just a smidge, without going too much into adjusting the color like I mentioned. If I add contrast, I'm looking at the detail here in the dress itself. I don't want to go too far, but I would think of this as a dress moment. If it's for the bride, I wouldn't add too much contrast because of what it does to the skin tones right there. But you could just, if you wanted to just adjust only the dress, I could make a new adjustment layer, and I'm going to pre-bring in the contrast here, and then I'm going to hit B for a brush. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger, zero hardness, and I'm just going to paint in the contrast right there. And I'm going to watch out for what happens on the feet. So maybe I'll undo that and bring the brush size down a little bit. And I just want to bring that contrast into this area, being careful not to select her feet and change the skin tone of those. We don't want to do that. So again, the backlight setup has beautiful definition, beautiful fill of the shadows. I just want to like zoom in on this area. Look how rich that looks with our light. That feels like soft light coming in from camera left there. Hard light just defining on camera right. Absolutely beautiful way to shoot definition and get an image that really pops. So I've put contrast only into this detail on the fabric. I could bring the brightness up, but you see that just starts to look horrible. You want to be subtle with all of this. If I'm playing around with my shadows, that could be fine, but I think it looks natural to have shadows down there. Be subtle with this. You're in a great place with your lighting. This is backlit. She looks beautiful. This is a great bridal image that if you're shooting this with a bride, she's going to hang that on her wall. She looks fantastic. The backlight setup, extremely versatile. You don't even need a modifier to do this.